Hello, I'm Kim and welcome back to my studio. Today we're going to paint a calming lily pond scene together. As always, I'll walk you through the process step by step and give you all the details you need along the way. Let's get started. To start, I've added some blue and black paint to my canvas and I'm using a large flat brush to blend it all together. I'm taking my time with this step and I'm being careful to not over blend because I want some of the texture to come through from the dark black into the blue to look like a water current flowing through my painting. Once you're finished with your background, I'm going to get a medium filbert brush and I've added some dark brown, dark green, light green, and light yellow to my palette. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dip my brush into 2 or more of these colors each time so I can add some variation and uniqueness to each lily pad I paint. So this is kind of a bit of a cheat code, so rather than going back and forth between each individual color, what I'm going to do is just try to pick up at least 2 or 3 colors each time I dip my brush in so that I can create some gradation and variation between each lily pad. So as I go around the painting, I'm just going to try to pick up different colors so I can create a unique lily pad each time I go in. Once you're happy with your lily pads, I'm going to add that same black and dark blue I used for my background earlier to my palette, and I'm using a small pointed brush here. So I'm going to mix these 2 colors together and I want it to be just slightly darker than my background, and I'm going to add some shadows under my lily pads to make them more 3D and make them appear like they're popping out. So do this anywhere that the lily pad touches the water, but also be mindful to do this where lily pads are overlapping each other as well. Once you're finished with that, we can move on to our koi fish. So I've added some white to my palette and I'm using that same pointed brush, and I'm going to first just suggest where the koi fish will be so I can have the general shape and direction the koi fish is swimming. And then I'm just going to build it up slowly and gradually so I don't make any mistakes and I can slowly give shape to the koi fish and add the fins and detail as well. And now that we have the general shape of our koi fish, I'm going to add some light orange to my palette as well so that I can add some variation to these koi fish. So I'm thinking what I want to do is have one that's a little bit lighter orange and one that's a little bit white, but I want them to have sort of inverted spots. So you can play around with this. I'm just going to lightly fill them in for now and we'll come back and finish up the details later. Alright, so I'm going to give my painting a quick dry here. You may want to do the same or just put it aside for a moment if your lily pads are still really wet. This is because we're going to go in with some lighter colors now for the lotus flowers and you don't want them to mix in with the green underneath. So what I'm doing here is I've added some white and some pink to my palette and I'm dipping into a mixture of the 2, but mostly white. It's very light, and I'm going to add the first few petals of the lotus flowers, and then I'm going to build them up slowly by darkening my paint over time so there's some depth to the flower. Okay, once you're happy with your lotus flowers, we're going to go back to the koi fish and add some final details. So I'm dipping right into that light orange paint, and I'm just going to add some details around the mouth, the fins, and the tail of the fish. Okay, this is my favorite part because this adds so much to the painting. I'm going to go into the white and I'm going to add these little ripples around the lily pads just to indicate that the water is moving and that they're floating on top of the water. So I'm going to do this around all the lily pads, but I'm also going to do it around the fish and create some ripple effects throughout the water as well. Another fun tip you can do here to emphasize those ripples is I'm going to go back into that mixture of blue and black that I was using for the shadows earlier, and I'm going to add some very subtle shadows underneath the ripples as well, just to give them a little bit more depth and make them stand out more against the koi fish. Once I'm finished that, I'm adding some final details to the lotus flowers with some seeds and some pollen with my yellow. And then I'm also going to add some final details to the lily pads, emphasizing some of the details of the lily pads by adding some highlights and different coloring into each one. With that, we're finished. I hope you had fun painting together, and be sure to leave me a comment to suggest what we paint next time. Thanks for watching.